that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, episode 209. I'm excited to have you all join us again this week. We have a lot of social media news to talk about this week. We're going to talk about updates from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and maybe some more. So I am really thankful for all of you watching. Here we are. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/social chefs. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we're also broadcasting there, youtube.com/social chefs. So what I want to do real quick, I'm going to bring in my co-host this week, and it's Jim Fuhs. You've probably seen him on the show before. He was a guest. I've also been on his show. It's the Tim and Jim show that they do. But I'm going to bring on Jim, and then we're going to bring on our guest, who is Desiree Martinez. So, Jim, how are you doing this week?
Great. And I appreciate you and Phil having me. I know Phil's off doing great things, and it's always exciting to be a part of an amazing show, one that's been around for quite a while.
Definitely, lots of fun. And thanks a lot for taking the time to step in and just fill in for Phil. So I need some sort of tagline here, filling in for Phil.
Right.
Has a nice ring to it sometimes. So,
well, is he like Gasparilla? Because you know what today is, right?
What is today?
Today is Talk Like a Pirate Day. Arg.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe he is. I'm not sure. So I think he's probably got some training maybe going on and whatnot. But, really, again, thank you so much for filling in for him this week. But by the way, so who do we have on this week? We've got Desiree Martinez. Maybe want to tell viewers a little bit about her.
Well, I know she is a social media expert in her own right. And I've gotten to follow her a little bit. I don't really know her probably as well as you do, but I know that I'm excited to learn more. I know she does a lot with women entrepreneurs as well.
Let's go ahead and bring her on, and we can have a quick little chat, introduce herself. Hey, Desiree, how are you?
Hi.
Thanks a lot for joining us, by the way. So tell us, what do you do? What's your specialty?
So I help businesses grow their business with better content marketing. I run an agency of do-it-for-you services where all of our social media managers are military spouses so that they're able to work anywhere that they're stationed around the world. And as far as what I do with women entrepreneurs, I actually am the hostess of a new podcast that's coming out in the next couple of weeks called The Women of YouTube, where we are telling the stories of women creators to inspire other women to start creating on YouTube.
Very nice. So, Jim, I don't know if you have any questions for her. I'm going to do a couple things backstage here before we kick things off.
Sure. I was actually just at the Military Influencer Conference in DC last week, and I got to meet Stephanie Brown from the Rosie Network. Have you been able to do much with them yet?
I haven't been able to do a lot with the Rosie Network. They are just kind of crushing it in their own right. I know a lot of people that are doing a lot of different things with them. But I think because we're separating from the Air Force right now. So I've been very focused on getting my family all moved and stuff, but I know them and what they're doing, and it's amazing stuff.
Well, and what you're doing is amazing too, because it was very eye-opening to learn how much, and actually, myself being a military veteran as well, but how much military spouses sacrifice for their families, and they give up their jobs so many times. And so I think it's amazing what you're doing and helping these spouses, be empowered and be able to be a big part of their family and not always be kind of put on the back burner.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. It's definitely an issue. About 59% of military spouses are underemployed or unemployed. So I'm just trying to do my part to help my community in any way that I can.
Awesome.
And it's definitely a fantastic thing. I mean, I can tell you, I definitely understand the sacrifice that has to be made. And, a lot of people, I think they don't realize that, there's a lot that's given up when you move overseas or you're moving around constantly. You can't get situated in a place because a lot of times a business want somebody who can just, they can dedicate their time, whether they're in person or they can, be remote, but at least maybe come into the office. So, that's a really good initiative that you're working on.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So I'm ready to go. Are y'all ready to go?
Let's do
Right.
it.
Okay. So, Jem, where do you want to start this week?
Let's talk about the Facebook Live API changes.
So what do we have going on here?
Well, it seems like to me, I mean, it's really, I think you and I talked a little bit beforehand. It's much ado about nothing. And for some reason, the tab doesn't want to pop up yet. But I did find the one interesting piece is that you have to identify third-party content if you're sharing it.
Okay.
What did you think of that?
I actually didn't. I actually did not get a chance to read that part. I was mainly focused on just the fact that, with Facebook Live API changes, I mean, if I'm a business, this is not really going to impact me right now, but it's going to impact my options that I get as far as the tools I use for my show and, the way that I can run that show. So you want to maybe go into a little more on that third party feature?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so what all do we have going on with the third party feature?
So what they're saying is that if you have pre-recorded content, it's got to be clearly distinguishable from the live content. And so what I'm wondering about is like, are they going to be screening that and then forcing, like, are they going to shut down people's shows? Are they going to, because every once in a while you hear about people, especially using some of these tools, like, oh, I basically want to run a show that's a recording of something.
Right. Yeah. It's a very interesting question. I mean, I think that in the age of privacy here, I think that Facebook has to obviously like try to kind of figure that thing out because I don't like the fact that like people can run a show and like, hey, it's just a looped pre-recorded show. I mean, you have to just disclose that to people. And that's why they have Facebook Premiere. That's why they have all these other tools out there. So I think the API, again, it's an update. It's going to mean some changes. So I hope also that it doesn't break a lot of things. Desiree, anything you want to add on the Facebook Live API changes?
I think it's also important to note that it says that remind anybody that if you're publishing through Facebook Live through a third party, that you're not doing any third party ads as well. So this makes me have a lot of questions if I have like a sponsor for a live show, or
Right.
maybe I'm like this show is presented by let's say for social chatter, it's like maybe it was like Agora Pulse was a sponsor or Sendable was a sponsor. Like, is that going to be allowed? Are we not going to be able to talk about people who are paying us live streamers for our audience? So I've got some questions about that.
And that's a good point, because I know like even Tim and I, we always say that we're not actually paid by StreamYard, but we say we're powered by StreamYard.
Mm-hmm.
So is that going to create an issue? That's a really good question.
I think that's a fantastic question. I mean, I think overall, I don't know the answer to that, but I think these are a lot of questions that need answers. For example,
I think that I kind of feel some days like Facebook and YouTube and all of the places don't realize that there's a big percentage, not a big, but an important part of the people that use their platform that do it because they can make money on it. And it's like they forget about us all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't have anything else I want to add to this. Any other business tips you want to add for viewers? If they're running a small business or they're an entrepreneur or whatnot, like, is there something they need to do for this? Anything they can do to plan better for this?
I just think it's important to make sure that you have your wording down right so that you're not getting yourself into a position. Maybe if you do have any commercials for a brand in there, don't do that, because Facebook sounds like Facebook doesn't want you to do that. You need to find another way to be talking about the client in a different way while on your live streams, and just make sure that you're continuing to pay attention to what's going on.
Definitely. Anything else you want to add, Jim?
No, I think she hit on the major points out of that.
Well, so with that, I want to actually go into what I feel are the biggest updates in social media news this week. And that's this new Facebook video publishing tool set that they're rolling out. And to me, I mean, there's a lot here. So maybe we can kind of run through some of these. But did you guys have a chance to look at these video publishing tools that are coming out?
Are you talking about like the Snippet or the Birdseed?
No, I'm actually talking about for example, with Facebook, like Facebook rehearsal, watch parties, some
Oh,
TV scheduling, all that sort of stuff.
I think it's pretty exciting, actually. I also, we got to talk a little bit about this beforehand. I mean, these are some great new tools that are going to make it easier for you to do stuff organically through the platform. Especially with what they're doing with um, the content the creator studio.
Right.
But I also wonder, is this the start of Facebook restricting third-party tools like, say, Hootsuite, Agorapulse, and others from having access to their platform?
I think that's a really good point. I think that overall, I think you might see some restrictions come into play at some point. I think that from a business perspective, I think that like we started to see this over the past few days. If you've been an Instagram user, you might have been notified that there were parts of your account that were like, for example, getting you're getting notified basically that your Instagram account was blocked because that you were using some third party practices and whatnot. I'm actually wondering if that, because nobody could kind of figure it out because they were using supposed Instagram partners. So I'm wondering if that is actually maybe tied into your idea, Jim. Because people weren't able to really kind of figure that out, and it actually makes a lot of sense when you put it in perspective.
And I think the other thing that you brought up, Christian, is the fact, and this was what we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
is the live video, they're still not really letting us bring on guests. And that's what we want to do. And
Mhm.
that's where these third-party tools like StreamYard allow you to do that in a very easy, simple way. And so I don't know if that's something they're going to develop further, but I know that's something you and I both were concerned about.
I definitely have a big concern with that. To me, that's it's a very, it's concerning at least, because they're rolling all of these fantastic updates. Like, hey, this update this week has Creator Studio, and they're making some enhancements to that, but they're missing the one feature that I think everybody wants. And this is like people wanting the Twitter edit button. It's the ability to bring in a guest. Like you've
I
done
have,
everything else. Do it.
I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel about how to go live
Uh-huh.
on your Facebook business page. And the number one comment I get over and over and over again is, how do I bring a guest on? And I'm like, you have to use a third party tool to do it.
Well, at one point, there actually was a feature, and some people have this on their account. It was the ability to bring in a guest, and it was pretty easy. But again, it's not there, and I don't know what the holdup is. Are they,
I
trying?
think they just want more control, honestly. Like, they had bought up the like production tool Vidpresso. I got to talk with those guys about it at the NAB show in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
And it's a lot of like what they're trying to do, which allows for you to use Facebook Live from like a production standpoint, almost like everything that we do with StreamYard and Be Live and Ecamm, all that stuff. Like they're trying to make it into one tool through
right.
Vidpresso. That's why they bought them up. And I don't know why they're not rolling out
Yeah,
these features for everyone, because they're pretty great if you are a higher level live streamer. I don't know why they're doing
right.
it, but I do know that Facebook um is already really weary about third party tools, because the thing that third party tools do that they don't want you to do is multicast.
Hmm.
Right.
And so I think by them not allowing third party tools, it allows for them to have one place to have all the content to essentially like quote unquote like own it. Because I know a lot of people will multicast to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live if they have it, or onto Twitch and things like that. So if we are concerned about them doing it, it's probably because of that.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
very possible. Yeah, I mean, I think that see, it's an interesting thing because like when you mention that, like it makes sense. But I know, for example, this week Facebook rolled out the ability, for example, if you're watching like Facebook Portal, so you now have Facebook Portal TV, and it has the ability to, for instance, pull in Netflix and I think Amazon, so you can like watch some video there. So I'm, they're kind of adding some of these features like in certain spots, but it's like, well, why don't
I
you just
don't
put
think that they're worried about Amazon, or I think Amazon and Netflix and Hulu, like they know their lane, which is entertainment. And I'm pretty sure that they all look at the Facebook watch shows like Facebook, stay out of our lane. But I think when you're talking about competitive things, like I would be really surprised if you ever saw a YouTube app on the Facebook portal. So I think that they just don't want you to take their content from Facebook and put it on YouTube. I really think that's what it is.
Very possible. I think though that like, you know, kind of back to your comment here, like about, you know, like Netflix, for example, and Amazon are kind of in a different lane. I tend to actually disagree with that because every single company, it seems nowadays, is looking to be a content producer. Like they're actually getting out of like buying up. For example, they're not buying up people that have access to content. You know, the current way that things are kind of running is people actually want to, they want to create their own content because they don't want to get into, you know, they don't want to have to buy licenses to things and that sort of thing. So they're just coming up with their own shows. And so I actually think that maybe Facebook is and Netflix, they're all playing in the same area. They all want a little tiny sliver of that pie, I think.
And Apple actually, with their latest updates, is doing the same thing on Apple TV.
$4.99, I think, month, I think, for access to Apple Plus. And then I think if you get a new iPhone or a new Apple device, they basically give you a free year as well. That's hard to compete with that. I mean, $5 a month for access to pretty good quality content, I think. Or I assume it's going to be really good content, actually.
I know Spotify did that with Hulu Plus. There's one that where it's like you got Spotify and you got Hulu. Everyone's bundling and doing stuff. And I don't think people are ever going to, I think it's going to be really hard, I should say, for people to look at Facebook as anything other than a social network where they go to get their updates that they have honed for their life.
Right.
And I think that the most we can probably see to have the biggest impact on Facebook is going to be like live streams of events like, you know, the Olympics or sporting events and things like that. But I also could be wrong. Like I know there's a couple of shows on Facebook I watch. Like I absolutely love Red Table Talk. And I really like I think because everyone has their guilty pleasures. It's like Queen Dreams or something like that. It's about this like Miss America pageant that Catherine Zeta-Jones did. It's great, but it's also like, but it hasn't been really anything else that they're doing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I mean, I think that again, I think 2020 is going to be the year that we're going to really see a lot of these content producers probably start to really push the accelerator there and see kind of how things go. But again, like you said, it has to be good content too. Just because it's got a star in it, for example, doesn't mean it's great. So do keep in mind as well.
And
so.
One other quick thing too, because a lot of this creator studio stuff is all really desktop oriented, and I seem to find that a lot of these small businesses that I work with, especially ones I train, they want to do everything off their phone. And so I find that interesting because a lot of times these features just don't really roll over well for a business or a creator to use on their tablet or their phone.
It's great.
Definitely. I think that's a fantastic point, actually. I'm not a big, here's the thing. I'm not really a big fan of like I love using mobile for things, but businesses have to realize like a smartphone and a tablet and a laptop are 3 different classes of devices. I mean, your smartphone packs a lot into a small screen. Your tablet is kind of just, you know, a little bit bigger screen with a little bit, you know, not as much power. And then your laptop is really your workhorse, but a lot of people are not buying laptops. I think that, you know, they need to realize that like, hey, you know what, you can't do everything on a mobile device. We talk about this a lot with live video. I mean, people trying to run a live video production from an iPhone, for example.
Right. You hear that a lot. You hear that a lot. People like, oh, well, I want to start my show on my phone. And it's like, I don't understand why you'd want to do that. I can see bringing guests on, but I think you're limiting your capabilities.
I think that there's 2 realms of thought here. I think that there's the one realm of thought when it comes to laptops. I mean, I run everything off of my laptop in my studio. and I've had to buy some things to make it a little bit better. Like I had to buy like an adapter to have the Ethernet connection. I had to do the extender for the USB drives, but it's been running great for me. And I think that the other thing is like, I think they want to use their phones probably because they want to see if it's going to work before they invest in a lot of equipment or an upgrade in the studio and stuff. And I think that as a YouTube creator, and I think pretty universally across the board, video creators, is the best camera to use is the one that you have. It's more important to start than to not do anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, it's start and build from there. Come out with version 1, version 1.1, 1.2, take some big steps and build it to what you want it to be. I think those are great points. So back to these Facebook video publishing tool updates, by the way. So we mentioned, we've got some live video updates. Obviously, they have this new feature called Facebook Rehearsal. Have you guys had a chance to check that out?
I have not. Sounds cool though.
It sounds very interesting though. Absolutely.
So Facebook Rehearsal basically is a way for you, it's very neat. So basically so we started off with Facebook Live API. It's taking that, and now publishers can actually use it to broadcast live only to page admins and editors. So almost like you can do a test run with your setup using like all the features and whatnot before actually going live. This is a very interesting feature. They're testing it with QVC, for example, which I think is a great example to work with. But a lot of times before somebody goes live, you got to get the camera right. For example, the lighting. Hey, does my audio sound good once we're live? And a lot of times people kind of it's just a big guess. And so by having Facebook Rehearsal, you'll be able to actually have a rehearsal before you go live.
I think that this is a great feature if you're trying to go live natively. I think that we do all of that stuff pre-roll in StreamYard.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we can test everything out ahead of time. So, I mean, it's kind of like, again, they're trying to take us off of our third-party tools.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I think I think that's another good point as well. Jim, do you want to add anything about YouTube Rehearsal? Any tips?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is people should be doing that regardless of whether they're going to go live on Facebook natively or if they're going to use a third-party tool. If you're not making sure that everything works right, I mean, it's no different than a professional television studio. They got to make sure all their gear works, because if you hit the live button, it doesn't work. It's not a good thing.
And and I want to talk about that real quickly here. So for example, like just because you have everything set up, for example, in your office, and you're like, hey, I'm just going to hit that start button and go live. Don't assume that just because, hey, my microphone worked one week, that it's going to work the next week. Like, yes, it should work, but also maybe during the week you opened maybe you opened a program, for example, maybe you didn't restart your computer. And we hear about this a lot, actually, about StreamYard. Like people are talking about like various tech issues they have. And a lot of times the main way to fix that is just to restart and then run a rehearsal right before you go live, and then that way, exactly how things need to work. And you mentioned, I think, a really good point. And that's the fact that, when you're a TV studio, like you need to treat a live video like you are a production studio. So you need to test what it is you're doing. For example, get your equipment set up, for example, get your lighting, get your background. It's not, hey, I've got to sit down and like, it's going to take me like, 8 hours to get all set up. It's going to take you, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Give yourself a buffer. So if your show, for example, our show starts today at 11, we show up at, let's see, like at 10:30 roughly, to kind of talk through things, make sure everybody's audio is good, make sure everybody's video looks good. For example, Jem and I had a chance to chat offline, and then Desiree had to go do some stuff real quick. So she came back. And so therefore we were able to have our, kind of almost like a pre-production meeting before we actually went live. So, that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you. If you want to be successful with live video, just copy, and it's good copy. Look at what, studios actually do to produce a TV show, to produce a movie, to run, the nightly news. It doesn't really matter what it is. They always test everything. A lot of times it's days beforehand, but they always test it beforehand before they go live. So,
and a little tip I would even give to some folks is I have a secret Facebook group that's just me and Tim and a couple other people, and I will test new features of StreamYard or whatever else in the test group. And so I can run my lighting, I can run new equipment, I can go live in that group. Nobody sees it, but it lets me know what the problems are, or just even like we were talking about with screen sharing. How does that screen look if I pop it up into a show? So it, doesn't cost you anything. You can create a group for free, and it's a great way to test out your technology ahead of time.
And the other thing is, if you're looking at like your live show and you're comparing yourself to other people, which you really shouldn't compare yourself to other people because you are your own entity, but it's your brand. You control your brand. And so, if you want your live videos to look, just not very well produced, hey, for example, a lot of times people go on, they're not confident on camera, for example. Like if you're not confident on camera and you've got lighting issues or tech issues, like that makes it even worse. So take your time and test that sort of thing before you actually go live. So I'm excited about Facebook rehearsal. Now, in addition to this, they've also got a couple other updates here as well. They're rolling out for people that use Facebook Lite. I know I don't use Facebook Lite. Jim, you probably don't. Desiree, I'm sure you don't either, right? Facebook has an update coming out for that. They're now adding live video. Facebook Lite's basically a slimmed down version of Facebook. So they're having some live video added to that, which is good. In addition to this, we've also got, let me think what else we have going on here. Obviously, you guys probably know this. We talked about it before, but you can trim the beginning and the end of your live video, which is very useful. If, for example, you start your video and say like your intro or your outro is off, you can trim that. Now, in addition to this, and I said this is like a lot of topics basically. So in addition to this, how many of you guys use Facebook Watch Party?
We started to play with it.
I use it to share my live streams after they've gone live, usually like a couple of days later, leading into my next one, as a way to just draw that attention.
Yeah. So this is a feature, and I think actually a lot of people are going to really like this. So a lot of times if I'm a Facebook page, I want to be able to invite people to that watch party. And so, if you're it was previously just for Facebook profiles. They actually are rolling out watch party for pages. So you can schedule that in advance, build anticipation, get people talking about it. I think this is actually one of the better updates for these Facebook video publishing tools. What do you guys think? Facebook Watch Party, useful, not useful?
I think it's a great way to promote your live streams after they've already gone live, because not everyone sees your feed, or they miss it the first time, or their algorithm is all janky. So it adds that extra live notification on the feed. I think it's a great idea. And I'll promote our live streams.
Right. And not to mention, not everybody is able to watch your show at the time it's actually live. And every once in a while you'll get a question like, oh, I missed your live stream. And they don't realize that they could go back and watch it. So even by doing a watch party, it's another way, like she says, to really kind of repurpose and let people know that, oh, I didn't know this was out there, and even be able, you're watching a movie, you're having some popcorn and talking with your friends about all the stuff you messed up for a half hour.
No, and it's a very useful feature. And that's the key thing also to think and to keep in mind. If you're running a live video and you don't have, say you have like one viewer on, for example, or no viewers, that can definitely hinder like your confidence in using live video. But keep in mind, as Jem mentioned, the replay is extremely valuable. A lot of times, just think about like this: if we didn't have TiVo, or we never had TiVo, the ability to like pre-record shows and watch them when it was convenient for us, that for example, I don't think would have changed our mindset with being able to watch stuff whenever we wanted to. Now, the fact that like somebody doesn't tune into your live broadcast, no big deal. If they don't tune into your live broadcast, make sure you have a sequence that goes out to them to get them to watch the replay. For example, it could be a Facebook Messenger chatbot. It could be an email that goes out, and a blog post, and so on, to drive people to that content. So, by the way, before we go into some of these other features, I want to just highlight a couple people that are watching. Tim, thanks a lot for joining. And then, Dan Courier here also has a really good comment here. He says, I think the goal of your live stream dictates some of the setup and planning. Not every live stream is intended to be a fully produced show. Absolutely true. Using live video as a means of connecting with your audience can be powerful, and more scripted shows lose that personal connection. Yes, there definitely needs to be some structure, probably like, a few breaks here and there. But I think those are really good points.
Hi, Dan.
So, Jim, did you have a chance to look through any of these other Facebook Live publishing tools or these Facebook video publishing tools?
I really like what they're doing with the Creator Studio. You're being able to see, if you want to call it, the fan loyalty. I think that's interesting. It's kind of along the line of Pat Flynn's super fan thing.
Mm-hmm.
You get an idea of what really is resonating with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And also am excited about some of these new Instagram features.
So we talked briefly about the Creator Studio part. Basically lets you see which videos that the loyal fans want to see by obviously measuring your videos that are driving return viewers. So great. That's very useful. What's this Instagram thing you're talking about?
Scheduling on Instagram TV and on the feed itself. I mean, that's that could be really, well, it is huge. I mean, that's probably the biggest complaint of people has been from Instagram in the past is, how do I schedule without having to pay for some third-party tool? So I think the fact that they're bringing that in is really going to potentially not only increase Instagram use, but especially Instagram TV.
Definitely. I think IGTV scheduling is going to hopefully get people to use IGTV more. A lot of the content I see on IGTV, a lot of times it's people taking their existing videos that are shot horizontally. And I realize that IGTV now supports both formats, but a lot of times it's people trying to fit a horizontal video into a vertical video. And, that doesn't really work. You miss out on a lot of the perspective of, that's why you choose to shoot horizontally versus vertically. It comes down to what it is that you want to keep in frame. So, Desiree, what do you think about that? The fact that you can now schedule Instagram and IGTV updates natively for up to 6 months on Facebook.
Scheduling, I think overall is something that marketers and businesses and brands want.
Mhm.
What I loathe about this update is that you can't schedule stories.
Okay.
And I'm like, why would you do something for IGTV, which I understand you're trying to force us to use and all these other like objectives that you have, because again, you keep trying to be YouTube and you're not there. But stories, which more people consume stories than your actual newsfeed, why, for the love of all of the gods, of all of the religions, would you not make a scheduling option for stories? Why? It just makes me crazy.
I mean, I think at some point we will see that, but I'm not really sure why they're doing that. I mean, do you all think that should maybe Facebook/Instagram kind of, build some lag time in, for example, for some of these features? Say like, hey, we want to get people using stories more, not just on Instagram, but on Facebook. Let's like put out, and we talked about this a couple shows ago. Like, do we need more tutorials, for example, to get people to use stories? How do we get people to use stories more? And then how do we get Facebook or Instagram to actually look at this and say, well, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to actually slow down, not throw so much at everyone at once. What do you think?
I don't think that there is any problem with getting people to use stories. I think people overall are like, they get it. You pull out your phone, you have a conversation, or you post a picture there and you like make it look all whatever, some janky or whatever. And it's 24 hours and it's like, it's good to go. But there's a whole different like psychological mentality that goes into making a newsfeed image. And it's really overwhelming people. And if you're busy, like I'm busy, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, I've got a husband and 2 dogs and the military, and I do not have time to sit there and like just like very strategically plan out a post on the fly. But I can pull out my phone, makeup lists, and with kids all over me and being all crazy and like say what I need to say, and people can not only be a part of what I have going on in my 24 hours, but they get to like build that better connection with me. People are not consuming IGTV in the way that they want them to. I don't care what anybody says. So I think that the fact that they aren't, again, this is the continuous thing that social networks are always doing. They're not giving users what they want. and they're trying to tell us what they think we want. And now we're running into, hey, let's make it easy to schedule IGTV posts. And it's like, why?
Right. No, I think you hit on a great point. I think they have been, and it hasn't been a success in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I give workshops, and it's over a year old, Instagram TV, and I'll ask people, how many of you heard of Instagram TV? And it's like, what's that? And but they all have Instagram. I think the other piece that you bring a great point up. It's just like stories. So I had a thought about this. I don't know what you guys think. This move to do away with likes on your feed, right? On both platforms. Really, that's what stories already is. I don't see the reactions to your story. You as a creator does. So is that in and of itself a drive to get people to use stories more?
That's a good point. I mean, I didn't think about it that way, but I think that using stories more is just a matter of like people understanding what they're doing. Like people have to have time to adapt and know like how and why to use something. And I think that that's how things started with Instagram, especially once Facebook got involved. And it's still an education. And let's be real, I still have people that are like, that come to me, they're like, oh, I don't have a Facebook page. So these are also probably the same people that are like, oh, I need a website. So it's kind of like there's always going to be someone that has to go through an educational curve. And I think that there are plenty of resources and people out there to answer these questions. What I don't understand is, and this is, I think, a continuous problem all creators have across the board, is why are you doing something and pushing something we don't want to do? And why are you ignoring these other needs we have? No one asked to not have likes. No one asked for you to drop third party. No one asked us to schedule IGTV, but I bet you a lot of people and marketers across the world are like, please, for the love of God, let me schedule my stories. You can't tell I have a high horse about this.
Well, and by the way, I got another. So Tim has a comment. He says, I'm not seeing a lot of consumers using IG stories around here, except us social media people. So, again, I mean, you're right. It does come down to who the audience is. And I think a lot of people, I mean, some people that get stories, like you're right, marketers, they're starting to get at least how they can use these. Businesses, I think, are lagging behind, and definitely consumers. Again, though, but back to Desiree's point here, like people are busy. So they're busy. And so like all these little features, like they're great, but how do I adapt that into what I currently do? You're already going all over the place, adding, Instagram stories. Like to most people, that's just an afterthought. So
I don't know. To me, stories is right at the top. I mean, as of January of 2019, when I know we're in September, I had 500 million daily users were consuming stories. I think what happens to everyone's algorithms and everyone's usage is they get stuck in their bubbles, and like you kind of just get stuck in this vacuum of seeing the same things over and over again. So Tim, to your point, I think it just might be like your online perspective of it. Like how many, do you have an account completely unrelated to marketing where you can have a study to see, okay, how many like normal people are using this thing? Because my Instagram, like where I promote my business, like where I spend the majority of my time is on YouTube. And so my YouTube has a lot of YouTube related content and social media related content as I search for answers. But my Instagram is people I like and people I know. And there are plenty of like people I went to high school with who are using Instagram just to like show off what they have going on in their life. And they're just normal people. So I think that it's more about stepping out and maybe finding a way to see how people in the everyday world are using things to understand better if it's going to work that way. And I think that, and I would definitely say all of the people I know that are normal people, not marketers, because we are not normal as marketers. They're using things and they're probably like, I don't even know what IGTV is. I don't know why I need to know about this Facebook update for live streaming on a business page. I just want to see the things my friends are sharing on Facebook.
Definitely. So by the way, I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to throw you guys a little curveball here. This is it's actually I think it's a good topic to talk about. It's not one that you all actually had. So it's a new update. And this is actually their Facebook video polls. Have you guys had a chance to check these out at all?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
But it
So
sounds
basically,
fascinating.
new form of interaction on Facebook. You've got the, let's see, a couple weeks ago, we had Instagram. Instagram rolled out their poll stickers for stories. So great update there to make it interactive. I know you can run, for example, on stories, you can publish, polls there as well. But this is an update to where now you can run polls. You can do polls plus ability to watch and browse. You can do watch and install, for example, as well for installing an app. What do you guys think about this? This is
I think
basically an
it's
ad.
a great way to get easy engagement.
Okay.
People, like, what do we say all the time as marketers? You got to create content that is engaging for your audience. And sometimes making engagement for your audience needs to be simple, like this or this, or, hit this emoji based on what you think or what your answer is. Like, thing that's easy. And I always say this, it's scroll stopping content. Like, I can scroll, I can do it and move on. That's
Yeah.
why it's so invaluable to have like text on your videos or closed captions on your videos for anything that you're creating. So I think that this sounds like a great idea to combine two things that are great: engagement and a visual.
Mhm. Definitely. And I've got a couple of examples here. We've got, somebody talking about a hamburger, for example. Would you try the triple cheeseburger here?
No.
Got the ever
No.
always
No.
That was a quick answer. No.
And we've got a gaming one as well. Again, these have different options with what they drive. One drives just the poll, one drives the ability to browse something like a website, and one drives the ability to watch and install. I think this is actually a very, very good update. I mean, from a business perspective, like these are three great examples here. But we've also got, for example, makeup companies. In this case, it was We Makeup, which was running AR ads, which was pretty slick. Basically, they let you try on different shades of makeup, which, hey, that's pretty fantastic, through an ad, and then they could run you back to their website to make the purchase or probably keep you there on Facebook. I think this is a very good, useful feature, I think, for a business. What do you all think?
Well, I think it's great, but I think this kind of goes back to Desiree's point earlier, is they're constantly making these changes.
Yeah.
And we have, I mean, if you think the majority of, I would say, and I'm looking at it from a small business marketing perspective,
Right.
they're not even doing stories right yet. Now you're adding all this other stuff and it's somewhat video related. And how many businesses still haven't even just done a video themselves recorded about their business? So these are great features for that 1% that can, use this. But for the majority, you've just like put them into like, oh my gosh, I can't do that.
This is obviously something that, again, I think that it's to get easy engagement, because I'm sure that Facebook is like, crap, people aren't engaging on our content as much anymore. We have to figure out how to make it easy for people to do. But I'm with you there too. It's like, if you're giving us too many options, like tone it back and maybe put some effort into educating the everyday normal person about different options that they have available to them, besides some weird banner at the top that we now have become accustomed to ignoring, because it's usually just like something that we don't care about. Again, like, we can only see so many privacy updates before we're like, yeah, I get it. You own my soul. Let's move on. So.
Yeah. And I think it's a really good point. I mean, it's you all both make some fantastic points. I mean, Facebook's rolling out a lot of features, but the average user is not anywhere near close to using these. I mean, if I'm really big into video, maybe I want to start running these, but I have to be big into video. I have to be producing on a consistent basis. And then I also have to be up on Facebook ads. So again, I mean, I love the fact that they're doing this. This reminds me a lot of Instagram. But because at some point, and you guys have probably heard me in 200 and something plus episodes, I've always been saying, hey, Facebook is going to combine Instagram and Facebook into one platform. I think again, these are fun features to help make it easier to interact with a business, but they got to get the fundamentals down first, for most businesses. And
you know what feature I would have liked to see is, how about just letting me do a poll on my business page with more than 2 choices? You let me do it in a group, but not on my business page.
Good one. Yeah, very good. So, Any other thoughts on this new Facebook video, the poll ad feature?
I think it's cool. I mean, you're doing really great stuff. I really wish you would just give me what I want. I mean, come on, guys. How long has Twitter been around and we still cannot edit our tweets? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what? You know what you guys need? You need more characters. I don't know. I want to edit my tweets. I mean,
that's a very, very, very good.
Just give me what I want. Give me something that I can use. You know what I can use? Scheduling Instagram stories, editable tweets. I like in the group features how you can like bold and like make different fonts and make stuff bigger, but like you can't do it on your newsfeed. I'm like, why? Like Instagram, release all of your features to everybody. Like, why is it that like not every single person has every single feature that you're rolling out? It doesn't make any sense to me. One of my top 5 performing videos on my YouTube channel is basically, it's okay. Instagram hates you and it's okay. Like, it's like, I don't have these features either. And like, it's just how it works.
That's right. Nobody, very few people ever get the swipe up feature on Instagram.
Well, the swipe up feature is a 10K thing. That's probably the only reason I would ever consider investing into IGTV, because you can swipe up if you're directing people to IGTV.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
So I'm going to switch gears here, by the way. So we talked about Facebook, we got a couple other topics to talk about, but the one I want to actually switch to is, it's called YouTube Key Moments. Have you guys had a chance to check this out? Check this one out?
Yes.
So what do we have going on, Desiree, here? We have YouTube Key Moments. What is it?
So I actually like this feature because it forces people to be very strategic with the content that they are creating. So we want what we want from a YouTube video. We as creators think, oh no, I know what you want. I know what you need. Like, no, I know what I want. Like, just give it to me. This comes into play a lot with tutorials. I can't tell you how many times I get trolled in a quote unquote helpful way with my YouTube channel because someone's like, fast forward to this part for the start of the tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so what it kind of taught me is like, probably shouldn't have like my life story or like my like deep thoughts about why you need to listen to me before going into a tutorial video. And the tutorial videos are for things that are really specific, like how to go live on Facebook from your business page, like that kind of stuff. And it's also kind of like if you have points you want to make and someone's just trying to get to that point, right. By having this, it's going to basically allow you to create chapters in your YouTube video where you can tell people, okay, at second 46, this is where I start talking about going to your Facebook page. And at second 115, this is where I show you where the live button is. And at second 147, this is where I talk about how to add a guest on, like whatever it may be. And so it allows you to get to kind of like what you need beforehand. And people are like, oh, this is going to kill my watch time. Oh, this is going to kill my views. No, you just need to give people a reason to stand around. And sometimes they just need an answer, not to be your best friend and subscribe to you and consume everything that you make and buy everything from you. Like, be worth staying around for, but sometimes know that you're not everyone's cup of tea and they just need something from you.
And so if for those of you watching, like if you want to quickly create, for example, basically create bookmarks, one way you can do this is you can open your YouTube video, you pause it obviously at the time you want the video to start, and you can actually right click on the video and select an option that says copy video URL at current time. And that basically will actually append the time that you want to jump somebody to. And then once you have that, you can actually paste that into the description and it will create chapter bookmarks for you, which is pretty fantastic. But now where this one goes, which I think is really neat, is this is actually for YouTube search results. So for example, a lot of times we want to learn how to do something on YouTube. We will go pull up a video and then it's like, well, oh shoot, like, do I want the one that's, 60 minutes long or do I want the one that's like 5 minutes? And so once I pull up this video with this YouTube Key Moments feature, what it actually will do in the search results is it will help you jump right to the points that you want to actually learn about. For example, in the screenshot here, there's features in this video about podcasting. how to pick the right microphone, how to pick the right boom arm, which for those who are not familiar with the boom arm, that's this thing right here that's holding my microphone in place. So, you've got the boom arm, you've got the shock mount that will go around the microphone. In this case, this microphone doesn't need a shock mount. How to edit your podcast and obviously your microphone. So what you can actually do with this is in search results, instead of actually having to launch the 13-minute video and watch the whole thing and figure out where the points are I need to actually go, I can click, for instance, right on the boom arm part and actually learn about that. So I think this is a very useful update, especially for business owners that are publishing lengthy videos on YouTube. For example, I think it would work well for this show or for the Tim and Jim show, for example, to be able to mark up your video with these bookmarks. Now, as far as like how you actually go about doing that, there actually is a form that you have to fill out. It's a Google Docs form. So if you go to the URL that I just shared, there's actually a link there that will take you directly to the Google form. It'll say mark up the video with bookmarks, and you can just apply basically. You apply for it, and then hopefully they will add it to your YouTube channel. What do you guys think about this? I love this feature. I don't really care about the watch time, that it might decrease it. What do you all think?
No, I think it's great. I mean, when you consider that, YouTube is the second biggest search engine after Google itself, why wouldn't you want to have more finite search capability where that key thing that people are looking for, that problem solution for, now they can get right to it? I think Desiree hit right on it. Like, do I really want to watch 30 minutes just to get to that answer? No, I think it's great.
No, exactly.
I think that if I could give a theme for this podcast, it would be social networks don't care about creators, social networks care about users. And that's how I would title this episode, because I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record on this. This is, again, an exact thing of what I'm talking about. They, like, as much as like their platforms would not exist without creators, and these tools wouldn't exist because creators exist, they don't care about the creators. They care about the users first. I don't say they don't care about us. They care about the users first. And the reason I like YouTube over Facebook is that, you get paid for the ads and stuff. That's it's a milestone to look forward to. But I think that this is a great feature for users. I think that it allows for people to, it allows for you as a creator to be respectful of people's time, and it allows for them to get what they need. And it allows for you to probably minimize the trolling, like just get to the point, or putting that stuff in there anyway. So I think that this is a great feature for users. And I think that creators are it's just another thing for creators to be frustrated about. And I think that the YouTube community is pretty frustrated in general right now.
So one thing I think that this reminds me a lot of are search engine optimization changes. So Google, at one point it was like, hey, publish an article that's, X amount of words. And then that number started to creep up, no big deal. And then it actually got to the point where it wasn't about publishing individual articles, but it was rather about publishing a full comprehensive post with anchor tags, which basically jump you from one section down to the next. That's actually what YouTube Key Moments reminds me of. And it makes me wonder if that's actually an SEO play that we have here. For example, in this example here, it's a 13-minute video on how to start a podcast. But guess what? It covers microphones, boom arms, shock mounts, editing, all the, much more, publishing, all the things that people would need to know. And in a way, you're creating a fully comprehensive guide and adding the YouTube Key Moments or the bookmarks, I think also might be signals to YouTube to maybe possibly almost like vote up some of the content that seems to get a lot of engagement. I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
No, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, the more ways that your content can be found for that specificity of what people are looking for. I mean, and I think it goes back to Desiree's point of, it's about the user ultimately. Yes, we all as creators want people to love our stuff. The platforms don't really care, because if the users don't come to their platform, it's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, will anybody hear it? If the users aren't coming to your platform, then it doesn't matter how good your stuff is.
Definitely. Desiree, anything you want to add about this feature?
Yeah, I think that on the point of what you talked about with the SEO, I think it will allow for users to know what they're getting in the video. And that's going to be really helpful. Like, am I in the right place? Because, like, I have questions and I have a lot of, like, maybe different ones. What
Right.
does this video have to offer to me that's going to, like, allow for me to know what to do? Like, it's really hard. Like, you kind of go into videos kind of blind based on a thumbnail and a title. Like, I hope that this is going to be the answer to all of my problems. And it could be like, if I needed to know, like, obviously Pat's thing is a great example. If I need to know a very good, bird's eye view of how to start a podcast in 13 minutes, these are all the things I'm going to learn in this video. It's important to know things I didn't know I needed to figure out, like, what is a boomworm? Like, I was just going to use my iPad, or I need a mic. Like, these are things that people might not have, like, even known that they needed to know. So, like, for my content, where I talk all about content marketing, I could break down my video. It's like, okay, so we're going to be talking about content marketing today. And let me break down for you at the different parts. These are the things I'm covering, so you know what to expect. I think it's a great, I think it's a great way to give a better user experience.
Definitely. Any additional thoughts y'all want to add on this before we kind of move into my favorite segment of the show?
I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory around this as well, which is like, okay, so YouTube is trying to figure out how to add more revenue to business pages now that they're losing all of their kid content. So I'm wondering if, like, they're going to use this as an opportunity to put in mid-roll ads by telling people this is a natural break in my video. So maybe it's an opportunity for them to know where the best place to put an ad would be.
So this is very interesting. So we're talking about SEO here. We're talking about, possible like ad breaks, for example, things that definitely are not highlighted in this article. And again, this was a feature that is mainly there to like say, hey, it's easier to get the search results and find the
Oh,
part of
it's a bigger picture. They're like, oh, look at what we're doing. Is this going to make it so much better for your viewers? And behind the scene, there's the puppeteer that's like, I have so many big plans to mess this up for people. There's one more thing for the creators to figure out and screw you over in some way or make it really great. Like, it honestly could be really great. But we don't know. We as marketers are the world's most jaded people. So we have to just be cautious and think about every angle and be prepared for the worst, but hope for the best.
So just a quick thought here, and then we're going to actually move into my favorite part of the show. So we've got a couple other topics we didn't get to today. I know that. I want to value your time. So, we're at almost 60 minutes here. So for those of you who want to make sure you get our daily email that goes out, we'll have a blog post recap, Alexa flash briefing, YouTube video replay as well. If you want to watch that, socialchefs.com/daily. But we're getting into my favorite part of the show. Jim, do you want to obviously like tool time. I think you and I talked about some of these beforehand, but I'm going to go and bring up the tools, but what tool do you want to start with today?
Let's start with the screen tool. I guess, is it Xnip?
Okay. So let me bring that one up. So can you tell viewers what this one actually is?
Sure. It's a Mac tool that allows you to capture your screen and do a lot of editing. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there, but I really liked it. I liked it'll let you actually do multiple captures with multiple windows open. And it was really, I went ahead, I got the pro version. It was, relatively inexpensive, but of course, we're Mac people. So
yeah,
but I really like it.
You say it like it's a disease. We're Mac people.
Well, I mean, I know my co-host Tim is a Windows person. He always acts like
hey, we're outnumbering him today. I'm team Mac for the
Mac.
I see. Okay, so Desiree, I didn't even have to actually guess if you were team Mac because you were mentioning you had to get an Ethernet adapter and USB hub. And here's the thing. Everybody's always like, oh, there's so many dongles you have to buy. And I'm like, no, not really. I mean, dongles are not that big of a deal. It just means that, when you really think about it from a computer standpoint, people basically buy a computer and then it's like, you don't actually use all the ports that are on there, which means they can slim it down. They can add a little more battery, maybe some additional features and whatnot, because they're able to tie in some new chips. So I was not surprised when you told me about that. And
I honestly, I'm just a Mac. I've been a Mac person since like 2007. And I can't imagine going back. And I switched to the laptop life and I realized how mobile I was with like entrepreneurships and having to show people stuff. And then like I bought another computer while I was in Korea because I'm military spouse still and I'm always on the go and I've got kids and I'm that mom who like works on the computer while she's like waiting for her kids to pick up at kid drop off line. So I mean, that's my only reason for it.
Well, so besides this being a Mac only app, Jim, how much was it for a year? Is it month?
I thought it was maybe a one time. It was really inexpensive. I think I paid $4.99 or something.
Yeah, $4.99. Yes.
Yeah.
So $4.99. And here's the other thing, and maybe this is the hardest part to kind of convey to people. So for instance, if you've got a Mac or even Windows, like you have screenshot tools built in. Now, what is this tool going to do that the other ones can't?
Well, I think the biggest thing, especially like I'm on my iMac and I can have multiple, windows open in different spaces. It'll let me clip all of them at once, where a lot of them, it's just like a one spot, like, okay, I'm going to clip this screen of our show, but I had this other thing I wanted to clip at the same time and maybe combine them. This one will allow you to do a lot of that. It'll let you do the rolling capture as well. And plus it seems to have some very robust annotation tools. So if you're wanting to make some screenshot tutorials, it'll make it easier for you to create that error. I mean, there's other programs that you can do it, but I had never heard of it until you brought it up. But of course, I'm also kind of like you. I'm always like, I probably have more tools than I need, but I'm always like, oh, let me check this out. It's got some neat features.
And at $4.99, I mean, again, like the features that sell it for me, yes, I can do screenshots on my Mac, but scrolling capture to me is huge. How many times have you wanted to take a screenshot of something? And what people do is this, like if you're in your browser, pretty much any application, if you're on Mac, Command plus will zoom in, Command minus will zoom out, Command 0 will put it back to regular screen. So here's the thing. I've got this really long page I need to send to a client. What do? Instead of taking multiple screenshots, I can do a scrolling capture and then they can do their zooming in and out on their mobile, for example, and pinch to zoom, and they're going to get a high quality screenshot. Now, the other feature, I really like the annotation tool, because what do a lot of people do when they take an annotation? They basically take a screenshot, they save it to their computer, they open up maybe Adobe Photoshop, they might open Canva, something along those lines. And then they go in and they like create some layers, for example, and put 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever here. You can do all of this directly within Xnip, the screenshot annotation tool. So for me, that's a big seller. Anything you want to add, Desiree?
No, I'm not. This isn't really my realm of expertise. So I'm just enjoying for now.
Not a big deal. Not a big deal. So what's the second tool that we have, Jim?
It was Birdseed, I believe.
So what is Birdseed? Because it's an odd name for a tool, but what is it exactly? What do we got?
It seemed like it, and I wasn't able to really look at it in depth, but I know it's an SEO tool that's really something that can help you with your website. And I think you were going to look into that in a little bit more detail.
Okay, so basically the way it works, and we actually have a nice little animated GIF here up on screen. But basically what this tool does is when it pops up on your screen, I'm actually going to show you this because it's in the bottom right corner of their website. So it's it's a freemium tool. It's 12 free engagement tools, as you can read there on screen. It does offer some more expensive plans like a premium and a pro plan that add more users, remove branding, and so forth. But this is basically what it is. So in the bottom corner on your website, you're going to have an icon like this. And when somebody clicks it, it's going to be able to pull up something like to this effect. And so, for example, if I'm on their website, here's what all I have here. So for example, I can quickly create a new message to their team. I can search the knowledge base library, which can be very useful. So if you have a lot of people ask questions all the time, they don't have to go try to figure out your website navigation and find your content. There's also, for instance, the ability to subscribe over on some certain channels. You can have them make phone calls. You can actually, for example, if you have webinars available, you can make those available. You can encourage people to attend your next webinar. If you're, for example, a live video person, it could be view our current show or view our replay. and then, for instance, maybe subscribe to our next show. So I'm going to click on, which one do you guys want me to click on? The webinar one, the attend the webinar, what, the search the knowledge base? What do you think?
Meeting, or do the top one, do the third one.
So that's going to take me to the website. So that's going to take me to somebody's website.
Oh, never mind.
Let's see. So
okay, so I have a question about this. Like, this seems cool, but I would love to know how effective these things are. Sort of like the pop-up mentality, but you should have a pop-up on your website to get people to opt into stuff. What are your, like, do you think does this work? Or does it only work for certain kinds of businesses? Like, how much do people use them? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think part of it actually, it removes the need to actually then go find your contact form, for example, on your website. A lot of times, a lot of people don't have a business phone number, so they don't necessarily want to publish that information. So this, I think, in a way, it basically it almost gives you a little more real estate and helps you be able to link, I think, to other things that are on your site that people might not know about. So that's stuff that I really like. I mean, if you don't have a messenger bot on your site, for example, this has that and more versus having to install multiple tools. Jen, what do you think?
No, I think it's definitely, I like the idea of being able to send people easily to, like, your previously recorded shows or your upcoming show off of the website, especially if you've got the pixel on there as well. Maybe you can start doing some more targeting on Facebook ads if you're running ads. So I think that could be a good thing as well.
Definitely, and I'm going to click on, like, let's see what this view on demand webinar, let's see what that does. So if I click on this on their website, so this is actually what's pretty neat about this. It basically took me directly to a video that I can watch within their site, along with, let's go ahead and pause this real quick, but it's got a video along with different videos that I can actually play through. So I think that actually, I mean, I personally like that idea. Maybe having, like, hey, I could say, like, hey, here's the current episode, and here's, 3 episodes from the previous show, for example. I think that could be useful. Or if it's a webinar, I think it's very good, useful there as well. But that's Birdseed for everybody. And as far as the pricing goes, like, again, it's a free tool, so you can download it for free. And then from a pricing standpoint, just want to give you guys a quick some insight into that. So the price of the tool is basically $39 a month, up to $99 a month, depending on the number of users you need. So you get all this stuff for free: 12 engagement tools, 1 account, unlimited website visitor traffic, proactive video, text, pop-up messages, integrates with 1,000+ applications, mobile app to manage on the go. And then if you need to remove the branding or add some teams, you get that functionality. So that's Birdseed.
Now, does that work, like, with your existing, like, WordPress site, or is that something?
It does, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So it should work right with your existing WordPress site. You can basically pull it directly into your, you put it in your website and then just set it up to however you want it to work. I'd say because it's free, test
forever.
it out.
Free forever, it says.
Right. Test it out. See how it works. See if it actually meets some of your needs. I mean, if for example, let's say you have a podcast and you have a YouTube channel and you've got, a live show, for example, and you got your social media icons on your website, and, let's just be, like, totally honest. I mean, you put your social media icons on your website just because, hey, that's the right thing to do. It doesn't necessarily drive people to say, oh, I didn't know you had a podcast. You have to tell people about this sort of thing. And so that's where I could actually see one of these tools being extremely useful, is being able to have, very, very deliberate calls to action within one bubble versus, hey, it's a whole bunch of pop-ups. That's one thing I think that I really like. But anything you want to add about this tool, Desiree?
Again, I think it's cool. I think it does a lot of really fun things that were really helpful. I just would love to see some data from them. Maybe that could be in their pop-up about how many people use it, and, like, how it's helpful for different kinds of businesses and businesses of different sizes. Yeah. It's always really easy to do a really glowing example with, like, a huge brand, like, oh, this is on the GoDaddy website or something. But, like, what about, like, the normal chiropractor down the street or the dentist, where this pop-up would make sense, where it's like, do we take your insurance and let's schedule your appointment for your cleaning or whatever. But like, how effective does it work based on the business? That's what I'd love to see.
And I think that's actually a really good point there, about like, if I'm a chiropractor, for example, a lot of people, they go through the habit of, trying to get a schedule for an appointment. And then, hey, they could be chatting, for instance, with somebody at the business versus let me have to call somebody, for example. So I think that there's a lot of utility with Birdseed, for example. But you're right. People don't want to see big brands. Like, great, I'm glad a big brand did that, but it doesn't really help a lot of people. The average small business,
No,
they're not, for instance, they're not a Starbucks.
It's the everyday business everyone needs, but isn't super sexy and easy to talk about. That usually is the one that needs the most help.
So, Jim, any last parting thoughts on this one?
No, I think it's definitely something I think I'm going to look into a little bit more. I think my initial thought was that you had to get it through AppSumo, but knowing that it's free forever, it might be worth at least exploring. And if, like you said, if it doesn't work, you can always remove it.
Definitely. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week for Social Chatter episode 209. Jim, thanks for filling in for Phil. Desiree, thanks a lot for joining us as well. So for people that want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Best place for you to connect with me is on all of the socials at Mrs. Desiree Rose. That's MRSDI. I can't even spell my name. MRSDESIREEROSE.
Fantastic. So, Jim, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who do we have on next week's show, by the way?
Is it me?
Yes, Jim is going to be our guest next week. So, he's filling in this week. He's basically, just rotating positions here. So we're going to have Jim on next week. I think we have you scheduled for 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is that right?
That sounds right. Yes.
Perfect. So 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Facebook.com/social chefs, YouTube.com/social chefs. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Desiree, thanks a lot for joining us this week. For those of you watching, if you want to connect with her, again, she has I love the idea, of working with trailing spouses, basically, to help them basically get involved in social media. That's a really good idea, actually. So be sure you connect with her, but we will see you all next week. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.